listening to the Rundown Live. Your protection from deception. And your forecast into the future.
Good evening, godless sodomites.
Kneel before your God, Babylon!
Making me the highest paid megalomaniacal boy king in all of Babylon!
You see, if you go and visit the very home of the Oscars where they hold it each year, you can see a plaque on the wall that says the Babylonian Court. The camera shows you the stage and you see an unmistakable Tower of Babel embedded into the design. Outside of the Kodak Theater, you have the gate to Ishtar, and you have Babylonian gods put on the outside of the gate. They have the exact elephants. They have the same exact gate of Ishtar. They have the same exact Babylonian gods over the top of the gates.
Like a lot of people come up here and they thank Jesus for this award. I want you to know that no one had less to do with this award than Jesus. He didn't help me a bit. So all I can say is, suck it, Jesus, this award is my God now!
I'm thankful to the Oscar gods.
The other names of the gentlemen are all gods as far as a category concerned.
When you get this little golden statue, you become a star. In the Egyptian culture, they also had a little statue that represented the god Ptah.
Y'all, they say that David Wilcock, the man from Ancient Aliens, passed away, man. And this right here hit me because I used to watch this man all the time. Every Sunday he would go live and do his weekly show. But something's not adding up. I've been noticing like this David Wilcock that I haven't seen recently looks very different from the Ancient Aliens David Wilcock. Now, it's not too much of a difference, but if you look closely, you can clearly see that there is a difference between those two. Look at the bridge of the eyebrows right over here. The eyes are different. The nose, like you see how this one's flatter and wider and this one's more pointier and longer? Look at it. The mouths are different. His teeth is out. Look at this. You know what I'm saying? If you listen to Ancient Aliens David Wilcock, there's not a lot of pausing and ums in his life. But this David Wilcock over here, there's a lot of pausing, there's a lot of ums and a lot of uncertainties in his life. Now, y'all know how I do with the breakdowns, right? How I do with the numbers and then the wordplay, okay? So, something's not adding up. Let's pay attention. First of all, David Wilcock allegedly took his life on a Monday, moon day. And the person who confirmed this was Anna Paulina Luna. Luna, like the moon, that's another name for the moon, is Luna. Moon day, Luna. David Wilcock was 53 years old. 5 plus 3 gives you 8. What day did David Wilcock commit suicide? April 20th. 420, which is right. 4 times 2 is 8. 5 plus 3 is 8. All right, now let's continue. Wilcock concluded his 3.5-hour stream by expressing his gratitude for his viewers and acknowledging his appreciation for them. 3.5, that's 3.5. 3.5, right over here. Which 3.5 gives you 8 again. Now the reason why that's relevant is because when you take an 8 and you split it down in half, you get 2 3s, right? 33. Okay, let's continue. Remember that.
This is probably the hardest video I've ever had to do. As many of you know, or have learned, yesterday, 420, David Wilcock took his own life. We are devastated and shocked. I really love David. He was a good friend. He was there with me through a lot of horrible things. We were there for each other. We were there with each other through a lot of awesome things. We had many, many laughs, many extremely deep conversations. And I'll always remember how kind he was. He never hurt anyone. He never denigrated, talked down to anyone. He treated everyone well. And he brought such a huge body of knowledge and information to this world. I hope people remember him and respect him for that. Everyone knows the last, since 2018, things have just really been crazy for both David and I. We have gone through an incredible amount of legal issues and cyber stalking. We've received death threats, numerous death threats on a yearly basis. There are groups of people that have gone out of their ways to completely destroy us. I think a lot of these people would have preferred to see me as the person who took their own life, but it was David.
I don't know. Pretty crazy. Whew! All right. We're back. We're back. It's all going to be good. You guys are okay. I'm okay. I'm safe. We're going to make it through this. You guys really want to talk about food today. But yeah, I mean, I get it. You hear that I've got health problems, and you hear that I've got, like, I'm up every couple of hours at night peeing, and, you know, and the pee smells like fruit, and I got the dry skin, I got the cracked heels, I've got the, you know, all the basic symptoms of what you would call type 1 prediabetes. I don't, thankfully, have blurry vision. I have a little bit of tingling in my hands, too, so it's scary. I mean, I think if I got a diagnosis, that's what they would say. But again, it is believed that this can be reversed by diet. And I noticed yesterday that my pee smelled a lot less fruity when I started to follow these things and not eat the salad and have the chicken instead. So that's what I'm really hoping for, guys. I want to get through this because it's been very difficult. I've had very low energy, very low motivation. That's why a lot of times I'm not even sure if I'm going to do a show because I'm tired, stressed out. It's a whole thing. It's called aging, David, says Jabo Philippe. No, this is not aging. It's something very different. Parasites, Susan Blueberry, that could very well be. I mean, one of the things I'm looking at is the possibility that my pancreas is under attack from the hantavirus, from the mice that we have here, the infestation from mice. I'm going to come back in an hour and maybe there will be a show. Oh my God, okay.
Hear about the Illuminati. If you watch the movie Eyes Wide Shut, you hear about something called the Saturn cult and the Festival of Saturnalia. Why? Because these people trace themselves back to the progenitors who had originally settled on Saturn. So if you look in Eyes Wide Shut, when they're all wearing the masks, they do this dance where they go around in a circle, and that emulates the rings of Saturn orbiting. Because they trace themselves as the descendants of Saturn, and they believe that they're different from the rest of us, that they have extraterrestrial DNA that made them the gods. And that kind of is segueing into the next part of our talk. So there were a very small number of survivors when the moon was blown up, and they got out with only, apparently the story is, the moon was so badly hit that only a few of their damaged spacecraft got out, and their civilization on Earth was almost completely wiped out, so just a small number of them made it, and they crash-landed on Earth. And they then interbred with humans, which they were specifically warned not to do, and this created what we call, in the book of Enoch, the fallen angels. Their offspring, their children most likely, the hybrids of their own form, which was about 36 feet tall, and native people on Earth, became these 12 to 13 foot tall, red-headed, white-skinned humans. And white skin was not normal for the Earth. And this is preserved in a book that the Vatican did not want you to read, that wasn't even found until the 1800s, but it's very old. It's as old as the book of Genesis, called the Book of Enoch. It's a very, very important text. And I'm going to be doing a lot more about this as I go on, probably writing it into my books. The Scottish explorer James Bruce discovered a copy, several copies of it in Ethiopia in 1773. It was translated in 1821, and Jesus quotes from this book in the New Testament, so he obviously thought it was pretty important. The key chapters are chapters 1 through 36, called the Book of the Watchers, and it says that this man, Enoch, was Noah's grandfather, and that he lived for 365 years, so he was some kind of extraterrestrial. Enoch acts as a messenger for what appear to be benevolent extraterrestrials who had threatened these people on Earth, the Watchers, with total destruction that became Noah's flood. But before the flood, before their civilization was wiped out again, because we're now talking about 12,000 years ago, the big Atlantean flood, they used Enoch as a messenger to kind of cut a deal with the good guys, the benevolent ETs, and say, would you please not destroy us? In this book, the Book of Enoch, it says that there was only 200 of them that descended. They became the fallen angels. Lucifer was one of the fallen angels, interestingly enough. He was the leader. The insiders I've spoken to have said it's probably a lot more than 200.
You're listening to the Rundown Live. Your protection from deception. And your forecast into the future.
Now you don't know it yet, but you are listening to History in the Making while you are listening to this show.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man, yet as mortal as his own.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Censored by the mainstream media, the destroyer of fake news, and your host of the Rundown Live, Kristan T. Harris.
Welcome to another edition of The Rundown Live, therundownlive.com. I'm your host, Kristan T. Harris, bringing you information you won't hear anywhere else. You guys will not want to go anywhere. We have a great broadcast lined up for you guys today. Jay Weidner will be joining us. He is one of the many talented individuals that once worked at Gaia Television, and he worked with David Wilcock. So we're going to dive into the life of David Wilcock today. We're going to dive into who David was among the high times, the low times, and we're going to get some personal stories. I know I've gotten a lot of flack the last couple days because ever since David died, I've been really kind of watching to see what people are saying about David because, at the end of the day, I actually started paying attention to Mr. Wilcock maybe about 6 or 7 years. I saw him on Ancient Aliens. I've seen I've seen a lot of people. And in fact, I know people who have actually been on Ancient Aliens. We've had Brad Olson on the show, Mark D'Antonio, and others. Obviously, Hugh Newman is a personal friend of mine. And what really interested me was, and where I found David was when I was investigating the phenomenon known as the QAnon phenomenon. And I wanted to know why everyone was falling for this crazy honeypot that seemed like a Pentagon psyop from the get-go, just a bunch of lavish, unsubstantiated claims. And the things that were substantiated, though, were the little bits of truth permeated, right? Little bits of truth permeated of William Cooper and Alex Jones and some real news titles. And then all of a sudden you have the president on board. Well, and I was like, what's going on here? So I started listening in to some of the people that a lot of the individuals had interest in when it came to the QAnon. Not because I believed in it, because from the get-go, I questioned it. I didn't believe the official narrative. I knew that there's real trafficking going on, but I'm like, this seems like a ruse that will take away from legitimate concerns and issues of child trafficking. Do I believe in Epstein Island, that there was something going on? I mean, absolutely. I was a key reporter in the Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein trial. I did correspondence work for the BBC, Glenn Beck, Alex Jones, and many others. And so when it comes to a lot of the things that Wilcock was talking about, I could equate and relate. But what I noticed is that there was a lot of truth, and then all of a sudden, sensational claims with little to no evidence to back things up. Things like, oh, I have an insider. Well, when Kristan T. Harris has an insider, let's say the Illuminati, I bring on Leo Lion Zagami, right? And I want people to know the truth. So David Wilcock found that individual per se, and his name was Corey Goode. And we can get into the drama with all that a little bit later. But Wilcock was a prominent author. He is a prominent writer, and I know very little about him other than what I saw in probably about 40 hours, 50 hours of videos I've watched of his, like conferences mostly. Cosmic Disclosure, I watched a few of them, and I was like, man, come on. They're like, this guy's saying all these things, Corey Goode, and he's really good at telling a story, a campfire story per se, and it's interesting and it's data, right? But until we can substantiate evidence to support those theories, we don't believe it. But there's a lot of people out there that are so used to being lied to, they will believe anything. So David Wilcock, who's an interesting individual, obviously very substantial in the alien world, the UFO world, the UAP disclosure world, and he has a lot of work that may or may not be legitimate, right? And people find interesting. So people can say that about me too, except for, I'm filing FOIAs and bringing together information that has been published and saying, hey, this is a research. It means to search again. As many of you know, I studied under Jordan Maxwell. So now, fast forward a little bit, David's life has taken a little bit of a roller coaster. He's going through highs and he's going through lows, right? Because now it's come out, fast forward, that, Jeffrey Epstein, according to his emails, met with Boris Nikolai, and he introduced him to the man who allegedly created the politically incorrect forum, which is what housed Q. So Jeffrey Epstein had direct ties to helping create the QAnon phenomenon. I don't know if it's to normalize it or to get people to report on things, but that impacted my viewpoint of David Wilcock. And I'm not saying that he has bad work out there or that everything he says is trash. I'm saying you need to listen to everything he says, right? Question everything and not believe it unless you can prove it with your own two hands. And that's what William Cooper used to always said. So fast forward to a couple days ago, and a lot of you guys are talking about this. This is a news piece recently on the passing of David Wilcock. And there's a lot of mystery, a lot of hoo-ha, a lot of things that people claim. But yes, David Wilcock allegedly shot himself in front of law enforcement. Unfortunately, I believe in redemption. I believe in any person can change. Bigger the sinner, bigger the saint. You can be a testimony by changing your crappy life and making it good, right? Because that's what really Yeshua taught, was bigger the sinner, bigger the saint. That was the trumpet that the followers of Christ claimed after he passed, and the Pharisees in Rome and other places, they struggled with this philosophical viewpoint. So David Wilcock, this is the recent news clip, one of the many recent news clips I found. This is Buzz.
UFO researcher, filmmaker, and YouTuber David Wilcock has died at the age of 53, according to authorities in Nederland, Colorado. Officials reportedly say the incident is being treated as a case of self-inflicted injury. The news has triggered widespread reaction across online communities. A close friend, who said she had been in contact with Wilcock until April 19, is now sharing stunning details, which give a sense of Wilcock's final days before his mystery death. Rochelle Vaughn, who calls Wilcock her best friend, says she is stunned by claims surrounding the UFO researcher's death, revealing he was in good spirits just days before the incident. She says Wilcock's death comes as a complete shock, as the two spoke just days earlier. Amid reports of a possible suicide, the woman reveals that on their final call, Wilcock was excited about the future and actively making plans. Her message has added a deeply personal dimension to the story, raising questions among followers about the circumstances leading up to his death. According to the Boulder County Sheriff's Office, as reported by TMZ, an emergency communications specialist who handled the 911 call believed the caller may have been experiencing a mental health crisis. Deputies arrived at the scene and encountered a man outside a residence holding a weapon. Officials say that within minutes of their arrival, the individual used the weapon on himself and was pronounced dead at the scene. Authorities reportedly confirmed that deputies searched the home and surrounding property and found no one else present. Detectives are now working with the Boulder County Coroner's Office to determine the official cause and manner of death. The investigation remains ongoing. Wilcock had built a large online following through his UFO research, alternative theories, and digital content. The news of his shocking death has sparked widespread reaction, with many expressing disbelief, especially in light of his friend's account. In the wake of the incident, many speculation have circulated online, including wild theories linking his death to his UFO research. But these claims remain baseless. Authorities have not confirmed any additional factors, and no official conclusions beyond initial findings have been released. Officials continue to urge reliance on verified information as the investigation proceeds. As questions remain, David Wilcock is being remembered not just for his work, but through the voices of those who knew him personally.
That summarizes the recent death of David Wilcock, and it's interesting because I've kind of navigated similar circles, right? Mark D'Antonio, Hugh Newman, Andrew Collins, a lot of people that my research has been used by, individuals that my research has been used by, or people that I've made friends with. Clyde Lewis. We all kind of travel in similar circles. I never met David Wilcock, but when people were criticizing some of my viewpoints of him when I'm having these discussions, I thought the best way would be to investigate, would be to bring on somebody that knew David personally. And we are very blessed today, beyond blessed, to have with us the former director and content creator of Gaia and producer of Cosmic Disclosure, Jay Weidner. Jay Weidner, welcome to the broadcast. Thank you so much for joining me on the Rundown Live today on Ground Zero Plus. What a sad story, and I really am interested to see and have you tell your version of the life of David Wilcock, because he's a very interesting individual. He captivated millions of people. Like right now he's probably trending right up there with the Epstein files. Like he's on like literally every one of my feeds, whether it's TikTok, Facebook, the Reels. The algorithms are promoting the death of David Wilcock, and it's really interesting to me because you are also an expert in mind control, which I've been interviewing MK Ultra victims for the last month. So we have a lot of crossover here, and I'm really excited to talk to you on today's broadcast. And number one, first of all, I know you're a friend of David's, and I'm really sorry for your loss with David, first and foremost. I believe in redemption, and I believe people can change, and I believe in the best of people, and it's unfortunate when something like this happens. But welcome to the broadcast, Jay. Thank you for joining me today. All right, Jay, we got to unmute you. That's on me. I apologize. Welcome to the broadcast, Jay.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem, Jay. So let's start out. How did you meet David, or when did you first hear of David, and how did you get involved with him?
I used to listen to him on the Art Bell show way long time ago, and then I met him at a conference. I must have been around 2000. That's when we first met, and I just put out my alchemical Kubrick article, and he was very complimentary to me, almost to an embarrassing place, and raving about that I'm a genius and ideas and so many unusual views on alternative science and ancient cultures and spiritual things, and it was so wide ranging, and then when he and I coupled together, it became like a powerhouse, because I brought, my 35 years of esoteric studies with me to him, and he knew that he was getting a really great thing here, and I'm really proud of it. And I hope, that, I don't know if it's still on Gaia, but I hope that they bring it back, because it was a great show. My feeling is that David was super quirky, fragile. I had to be very careful with him. I could hurt his feelings without knowing I hurt his feelings, right? I could see him pouting and say, what's wrong? After 15 minutes, finally, he'd tell me that I said this. Oh my God, did not mean to say that, right? And I didn't mean to say it like you think I said it. And but we got along, made a great show, and he just had such wide range of interests that we could literally just, if he had not quit Gaia in 2018, I guarantee it, he'd still be there. We would still have found a place for him. I'm not there anymore, haven't been there in 7 years, but I guarantee he would have been a continuous presence on the network and making, pretty good money there too. But when Corey Goode talked him into quitting Gaia in 2018, he wrote that ridiculous resignation letter, then he lost his marriage, he lost all of his income, and there he was living alone in a house in the mountains of Colorado, no friends, no money, and clearly by watching his weekly show, you can see the mental deterioration that he was going into and under. Now, is it MK Ultra? It could be. In my mind, and I do trust my intuition. I've really learned to trust my intuition. In my mind, I can't see David with a gun. He didn't like guns. He thought they were dangerous. He thought people that had guns were stupid. May have gotten paranoid and got a gun. I don't know. But I can't see it in my mind. That's my problem with this whole thing. I can't see him putting a gun to his head. I can't. You know what? Yeah, maybe a fentanyl overdose or a sleeping pill overdose. I got that. I can see that happening. But it takes a certain kind of dude to be able to do that. I couldn't do it.
Well, first of all, I don't believe in suicide. It's not in my core being. But it's a very sad outcome. And the first thing that comes to my mind as an investigative journalist is drug abuse. I don't know, but when you get into circles like that, especially when it comes to people who want to expand their consciousness, a lot of them dive down and travel down a very dangerous road with just drugs in general. And it starts out with something basic like mushrooms or DMT because they're trying to expand their consciousness. And somebody says, well, how about this? Or then you end up on meth or something else. But he could have had a health deterioration. Like, I don't know him personally. I don't know if he had a drug addiction, but I see a lot of the similar patterns.
Yeah, okay. There's something I do want to address because you brought this up. There's a guy commenting on various radio podcasts and things on this whole thing, and I think it's the same guy. He seems like he really knows, like he might be a doctor or a nurse or he or she or whatever, right? And they're saying that in the last few months, David was complaining about that he couldn't hold his food, he couldn't sleep, he had a rash or something around his feet, and that he was diabetic or pre-diabetic. And they're saying that it's called it's something that happens to you when you are diabetic or when you don't know you're diabetic. A sudden something where you get completely taken over by the chemical imbalances that are going on. And I don't know if that's true, but that would explain it.
Yeah, definitely. There's many different things, and we can speculate. I guess we'll have to wait. Maybe when they come back and do some coronary reports, we'll know more because, one of the things that it's really interesting about his death is that there's a lot of conspiracies. It's interesting that he went out that way. He talked and discussed a lot of very interesting subjects. He brought people to the next stage of questioning, right? And I think there's a lot of valid things he discusses in his teachings that he borrows from a lot of other people. Somebody I studied under that you may know is Jordan Maxwell, Russell Pine, right?
One of my best friends.
Yeah, and I hung out with him. We had dinner. I'm kind of in the inner circle there with a lot of the same people, and I've kind of tried to continue on his work because he asked me to manage him later on in his life when he was trying to bounce back, and it looked like we might have Jordan Maxwell for a few more years, and we were going to do a show together. there constantly in podcasting. I talked him into it. I'm like, Jordan, just because you're old doesn't mean that you're done. God still has more to do for you, even if you don't believe in a creator or a God. I'm telling you, there's more that you can do. And we would have conversations about creation. Like I was sending him news articles about them potentially finding the tomb of King David underneath Israel. And he's like, oh, okay, because, he didn't believe some of these individuals existed. And we talked a lot about Saturn and symbolism and things like that. But Jordan was a student of Manly P. Hall. Like a lot of people don't know that, but Jordan actually received 150 handwritten books by Hall, and I think that a lot of that led to his success because he was able to translate that for us dumb people what Manly P. Hall was saying in a very intellectual language, and it was very interesting.
Yeah, it really was. I've known Jordan for 35 years and got him a show at Gaia, saved his life. He tells me over and over until he died that I saved his life, and nothing I've ever been told makes me more happy than when he told me that, because he was down and out when I pulled him out of it. And yeah, it's weird because I crossed paths, not with Manly P. Hall, he had already died, but with his wife. Oh. And actually spent 2 weeks with her in LA, going over all of Manly's texts and drawings and all of this stuff, and that's actually when I met Jordan. That's what bonded us, was that we were both Manly P. Hall fans, and in those days Manly P. Hall was all there was. There wasn't anything else. So but yeah, Jordan, I would like to have Jordan hear what he has to say, because he knew David, and hear what he has to say about all this. I think I think that there's a lot of people trying to make a lot of grift off of this thing, and I really don't appreciate that. I'm in mourning right now, so I'm a little bit down, and I don't want any money or anything or even any sympathy. But I don't think that people should be brandishing wild theories around until we have some evidence. We haven't seen the police cam. We haven't seen the coroner's report. Can't we just cool it for a little while until we have some bearing here, and let's have some respect for David, Yes, I'm going to follow up, and I'm going to understand exactly what happened to that man, because he was my friend, but I just don't really like all this, and I hate it. I don't want to call her out, but Carrie Cassidy's brandishing a conspiracy theory right now that's just, I don't know. It's just not respectful.
Fight for the clicks, the views, and the flock of David Wilcock, which, part of it, in my opinion, like, I have my own opinions on David. Like, I believe he has a very important role in the disclosure aspect of things. And when he quotes people who are credible, his information is also credible. The problem is when he started planting seeds in the garden of his mind that were GMO seeds, and he was growing improper ideas, and he started aggregating that information. So now you have that crew of the false information that doesn't want to let go, that's doubling down that they weren't wrong, right? And they're just buying into it, and it's exploding. And that's why I'm glad I have you on the show, because that's what I believe in. I want to be found in journalism. I want to be a prophet of truth. I want to bring the right information, and taking a step back and interviewing people that knew David was much better than me going around and being like, well, this is my opinion, because I didn't know David. What I want to know is the people who knew him and their opinion on how they felt. And there's going to be different versions of this, but I understand that I'll be honest, I don't trust Corey Goode. He sounds like a Fed to me. Like as a person who works in radio and has worked with whistleblowers, I can tell you Feds like to infiltrate. They like to make up lavish stories. They want people to do crazy things, and psychologically, they will mess with you. They will say crazy things to get under your skin, to make you think, to try to make you obsessed and make you do crazy stuff so they can get paid. At the end of the day, the Feds are there trying to get you to do crazy stuff because they get paid if you hurt somebody. That's the truth.
Yeah, well, he somehow managed to talk David Wilcock out of the greatest gig that the dude ever had in his whole life, turning down, $300,000 a year for nothing, there's nothing replacing it, right? It's not like he had another gig going. He didn't. And it was clearly Corey Goode that talked him into making such a fatal error in his life, which cost him his marriage, everything. And, I have the text messages from 2018 For 3 days, he and I went back and forth, me begging him to reconsider this and to come back, and telling him that we'll take care of him. That even if I'm gone, we'll take care of you. I promise you that you'll have a gig forever. Come on, man. Think about your wife. What's she going to think about this, right? I mean, my wife wouldn't have let me do it.
Well, right.
Well, I had a good gig, no way.
Well, right. It's a job. You're doing what you love. You get to have your own show and control your own content. At least I believe so. People might have mixed, that might be a mixed bag of donuts there. But you know, all of a sudden, so where did Corey Goode come from? Like, where did he rise out of? What kind, like when he met David Wilcock, like what evidence did he provide to get David to buy into what he said? Like, that's what I kind of want to know, because when I hear Corey Goode, I'm like, this is like campfire stories. This is Hansel and Gretel. This is, you know, Brothers Grimm. This is like the super sci-fi, like Star Trek version of all that. Like, it's just like, we're going to put it all in there, and people who are already challenged and don't believe anything the media tells you are going to buy it hook, line, and sinker, because they want to believe anything and everything, and they grasp onto it. I'm not holding any of that against the people out there or David's flock. I'm just saying that, like, you need to question everything. That's why I question my own theological beliefs, because at the end of the day, if you don't always test it, you don't know if what you believe is based on sound truth. So how is it that where does Corey Goode come from all of a sudden?
Okay, so he originated on it was a project. It wasn't Project Camelot. It was Carrie Cassidy's ex-boyfriend, and it had a name like similar to Project Camelot, and he emerged there originally, and then after he met David, the guy who runs this website, back engineered all of Corey's wanderings around, and he was everywhere. He was wandering through all these different subject matters that, you know, Carrie Cassidy likes to cover, you know, secret space program and people.
Well, it's all based on fiction, though. There's no proof of anything that she's claiming. That's the issue.
Exactly. Thank you very much. So he then, don't know exactly how, but he somehow got David's ear, told him that he was in the secret space program, and he had gleaned all this information from this website. He was literally on it for 3 years, wandering around this website for 3 years. I've been told. And David was, I got to preface all this.
Yeah.
So, all the hosts on Gaia got paid the same amount of money, because we knew they would talk with each other, and if one got more than the other, it'd be a big fight, right? So David had reached kind of his peak of what he could earn there. And he said, I need a raise. I said, I can't give you a raise. I mean, because everybody else would have to get a raise, and that would cost us a ton of money. So then I thought about it, and after about 2 weeks, I said, hey, I've got a great idea. Why don't we give you another show? You'll have 2 shows, and that will double your salary. And he's like, yeah, that's great. So we kind of fooled around for about 2 months trying different kinds of shows. Nothing really worked. And then Corey Goode showed up. And so then we brought him in, and he became the second show, Cosmic Disclosure. So it was Wisdom Teachings and Cosmic Disclosure. And I thought we were going to do like 8 shows of it, and that was going to be it. But we did the 8 shows, and the people above me decided that we were going to make it a permanent show under my, with me arguing, no, we shouldn't be doing this. We should do other guests, not just have one guest on the show. But they elected to do that, and then they put a lot of money and marketing behind it. They had never put marketing money behind anything that I'd ever done before, so I was kind of happy about that. And they turned it into this big, huge show. And then about 3 months into the show, the cracks began forming. There were contradictions in the story and things that didn't make sense. And I was the producer, and I kept pointing it out. There were also, incidences where something will have played on a YouTube show, and then Corey repeats it 2 weeks later, like some kind of research that somebody did. And then, and because I was keeping track of all of it, I knew it. And I would, literally stop the shoot and go out there and say, dude, that was just on the show 2 weeks ago. He said it. And you told me that you watched that show, right? And so I kept finding these contradictions, and finally where it culminated was, and this is a really funny story, was that my movie, The Last Avatar, had just opened up on Gaia. It was a feature film I'd made. I spent like $150,000 making this film. It almost broke me. It almost broke my relationship with my wife. But I put this movie out, and it finally opened on Gaia, and I was, finally making some money from it. It'd been on Gaia for about 2 weeks, and Corey and David came to shoot some episodes, and Corey started telling that he had just experienced the same exact plot of my movie. Same exact plot. And I was aghast. I was completely floored.
Well,
And
Jay, you must have stolen his story, and then you made a movie about it, because that would be the only way that could happen, right? Like that's what they want you to think. And so that's one of my problems with what I call the woo-woo crowd, is they're really into fruition and bringing things into fruition with their hot thoughts, abracadabra, as I think I create, and they don't really like if it's meant to happen, it will happen. And if something is pushing back, even a little bit, if things get hard, all of a sudden they're like clay. They're like, okay, we're going to go this way. They don't really and I'm not saying that's the case here. I'm just saying that the culture of starseeds and a lot of those individuals, they don't have any backbone. They don't have a lot of spine. They want to go where it's easy and good all the time. But life ain't easy, and it ain't always good. Sometimes you got to work hard. And I think that a lot of that could happen. And I could see David being like, well, Corey's right. This is negative energy and it's impacting, the flow of things. Let's go and do something else. But Corey Goode the whole time sounds like a Fed to me. And I'm not going to say he is, because I don't know it. But I can tell you, it seems like a lot of these very extreme, like sci-fi, like alien bases underground, and we need to gas it because they have animal-human hybrids conversations, is there to instigate somebody to go do that so that they could be then arrested and then put in jail, because that's how the feds work. But yeah, Corey Goode, very weird, very bizarre stories, and his stories were, they seem so exaggerated that they can't be true. And there's other people out there that tell similar stories before him, like what was it, Andrew Basiago with Project Monarch, another one.
Fred, the guy that went to Mars, Fred.
Right. And we're talking about people like they're meeting with the Galactic Federation of Light, which, Commander Ashtar, which is interesting. I had a conversation with Leo Line-Zagami. Do you know who Leo Line-Zagami is by chance? He's a personal friend of mine.
Several shows with him.
He's a personal friend of mine. And I'm like, I have a documentary I'm working on about the Illuminati that's going to be coming out. And I asked him about, what do you think about Commander Ashtar and this Galactic Federation in life? He goes, well, that sounds a lot like Ashtaroth, the demon, to me. And I'm like, well, oh boy, that's an interesting, a very interesting leak. And I don't mean to give away much from, and I filmed a lot of this at Contact. I got a lot of great people in it. But that seems legit. Like Leo has the paperwork. He's a 33rd degree on record. He's from Italy. He is born into an Illuminati family. All those things are almost like you really can't argue them. Those things of, it's very interesting. And I found that his message doesn't change, and it's based on a true foundation of wanting to do good. Because when he was a crook, Leo made a ton of money. He could still be a crook and make a ton of money, but he doesn't live that life anymore. He's changed, and he's become a born-again Christian, and that's the path he chose. But I think that there's some interesting things here about Corey Goode. The fact that it seems like he got in there, he made money, and he's trying to milk David Wilcock and Gaia for everything they could. And then at the end of the day, he's like, oh, we can make more money on our own. Let's just do that. And David's like, well, yeah, why not just skip the middleman? But as a man who used to own a record label myself, I understand that the promotion, PR, the connections, and everything else, you just don't bite the hands that feed you. You take care of the people that treat you good, and you listen, and you have a civil conversation about this. So, yeah, Cosmic Disclosure was an interesting show for me.
Yeah, so what Corey would do was he had a very special ability where it didn't work on me, but it worked on David. and that would be that he would say something negative about somebody to David or me, but mostly David, because what he had to do was he had to get me out of the way, because I was super skeptical of him. And he would confront me several times, Corey would, like, you don't believe me, do you? I'd say, it's not my business to believe you. I'm here to make a good show.
Right?
And so he would pepper David with these things, and then pretty soon David would start believing it. And I think that's what erupted our relationship, and also the relationship with Gaia. And, it was a suicidal move by David. I mean, it was insane. He had a free range, 2 shows, nobody telling him what to do. He was in complete control of his content, except for politics. I did insist, I did not want him to talk about politics. Not because I was like trying to censor him, but because it would time date the show.
Well, right. You can look back and say that QAnon is bullshit now. Like the things that he was interested in. I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, like, that's the problem with politics. If you're not good, like, I'm a geopolitical analyst, you look at the trends and you can predict what's happening. You have the safe calls, and then you have the wild ones, which you shouldn't make, but then you say it because that's what sells.
Well, that broke me and David, too, when he started saying that there was going to be mass arrests. And
500,000 sealed indictments. Let's go get them. Woo! JFK Jr. is still alive.
It's like, dude, are you saying that you don't want due process? That you want to arrest 500,000 people without giving them, just throwing them in Guantanamo? What are you saying? Right? I mean, what was that all about? And he would get really angry with me. And right now, QAnon was really the end of it for me and David. And it was Bible to him. And I kept saying to him, David, have you ever read anything that QAnon says that you didn't already know?
Well,
No.
that's just it. The things that QAnon was right about were borrowed from William Cooper and Alex Jones, who did real research. And then they made a whole bunch of bullshit up about bracelets and Tom Hanks and Obama being seen with ankle monitors. And you know what's funny, Jay? And I don't know if you know this, but I was a key reporter in the Ghislaine Maxwell Jeffrey Epstein trial. I was the only reporter there every day, and so I had a deep interest in these Epstein files when they got released. And one of the things that Epstein files talks about is how Boris Nikolai, Bill Gates' right-hand man, introduces Jeffrey Epstein into the guy who created the politically incorrect forum, which spawned Q. So Q actually came from Jeffrey Epstein, most likely, and they permeated all the abuse to desensitize us and make it seem normal. And that when people would report these kind of ludicrous ideas, that cops would be like, well, we don't need another insurrection. That's probably not true. That's dangerous thought. That's a thought crime. And that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, we've discovered that in the Epstein files, there's a whole section of Epstein bragging about how he's going to knock off all the free energy guys. It's right there. He says, I'm going to destroy all of them. He was talking about the Fleshman and Pons, the guys who invented the cold fusion. And then you look at what he's doing, and he's constantly like rubbing shoulders with people who are working on free energy devices. And you just know he's reporting them back to wherever he works for, right? And it's incredibly disturbing.
Well, so now let's fast forward. So David in his height, he's an author. He's on Ancient Aliens, which I know that doesn't pay a whole lot doing TV shows because I've been on a few myself. Not giving myself a shameless plug. I'm just saying it's not really like when you're doing TV, a lot of times it doesn't pay unless it's your program, you're the director, whatever. You're not making money. You're a guest. You get the exposure. Maybe you can build a career off of that. But at the end of the day, he's getting exposure. He's writing books. He's doing conventions. And, you said he's charismatic. Everyone I know that has ever met David Wilcock says he was one of the nicest people they've ever met. So he genuinely a good, decent, he treated people well anyways, right?
Yeah, he was a God-fearing Christian. I mean, he wouldn't admit it in public, but he told me many times that he was a Christian. And that's why this whole thing I'm like, what? This is not David Wilcock I know. Right, he may have said a lot of crazy stuff, but putting a thing to your head and doing that is just
it's out of character.
I really can't see it. I cannot see it. And I've had a lot of people in my life who've committed, unalive,
unfortunately.
And, you know, this is the most shocking one of all.
Not to mention that he said that he'd never do it, and if he did, it would be conspiracy. Which is like, you know, so did John McAfee, though. He said the same thing. I would never off myself, and if I did, it would be a conspiracy. You know, and you know, I think it's one of those things where I just, you know, the decline happened. So he's at the height, and he started going down this path. He loses.
He was going down.
Yeah.
His last show that he did on Sunday, the day before he did it, it was sad, man. He was clearly had lost a lot of weight. His skin was gray. He sounded sad. He kept contradicting himself. Like he'd say 1 minute, this is the happiest I've ever been. And then 5 minutes later, things are just not looking good for me. Right? He was $1.5 million to the IRS that he owed. He'd been taken to the cleaners by that aerospace company. They took like $1 million. That caused his wife to leave him. You know, he's just made a series of really bad mistakes. And, you know, there's this thing where if you're doing something wrong and you're a good person, but you know you're doing something wrong, it breaks down the spiritual barrier between you and the demonic realm. Because every time you do something wrong, it punctures a hole in your protective layer that you have around you. And you never want to punch a hole in that thing, you know, because you don't want to let the demons in. And I don't know if there isn't maybe some demonic possession going on here at the end, because, you know, he just something changed in David in the last year or so. And he started looking bad, and I don't know. I didn't watch the shows much. I'd catch highlights of it because it was so painful for me to watch it.
Yeah, no, the idea, you know, I'm going to say I thought he was on meth. That's what it looked like to me. And I'm not saying he was, but that's what like all the characteristics. I've dated a recovering meth addict who never did it again. But she was 15 years recovered, but she knew immediately there would be weird sores on the body. Their skin turns pale. They can't sleep. They're always shaking. They're paranoid. And I'm not saying he did meth, but Adderall, other things, Adderall's meth. Like you can just pop enough Adderall and all of a sudden you can't sleep. And at night you're all freaky and crazy. And I'm not saying that is true about David at all because I don't know him.
You're bringing up a really good point. And for sure, David was probably getting some kind of psychological help. And they may have prescribed
suicide pills, SSRIs. Like the number one cause of like suicide is probably SSRIs. It says right on the pill bottle, violent tendencies may commit suicide. And my aunt, my mother's sister, was married for many years. Her husband passed due to kidney failure. She was dating a new guy. Nothing was really wrong with him except for he felt that something was off. He went to the doctor. The doctor put him on SSRIs. A couple months later, the guy blew his head off. Like there's a problem with the big pharma medical industrial complex. And obviously he was worried about diabetes. He should have been getting tested. If you think you have diabetes, go to the doctor. I understand natural holistic health. You want to go down a holistic path, at least stay alive so you can do that, right? Like at the end of the day, you know, like I don't trust the medical industry as much as the other person, but at the same point, if you need to see a doctor, go see a doctor, right?
Yeah, he should have gone and see a doctor if he thought he had diabetes. But, you know, you're making a good point because he was complaining about weird sores on his body, and he was complaining about not sleeping, and he did look like...
No, I'm just saying that's what, like, immediately, like, if you see a duck, you call a duck, that's most likely a duck. You might be wrong if you don't know birds, but that's what it looked like to me, and I'm not saying that's true at all. I'm just saying, like the common sense, like that would be the first thing I'd investigate. I'd check the drug report on David Wilcock to see if he had any drugs in his system. And if he did it, well, good, then it exonerates him. And I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm saying this is what you do as a reporter. You ask questions and you ask the hard questions sometimes, you know?
Well, he was living all alone. He didn't have any friends.
Why is that though? The guy was so like charming. Like everyone loved him, it seems like.
It was Corey Goode. He lost everything with Corey Goode. Corey Goode destroyed David's life, and I believe he's responsible for the whole thing. And he manipulated Corey manipulated David all the way to the end. He may even be that the reason that David was so isolated is because of Corey.
He's scared for his life because he knows some unknown fake secret that Corey Goode told him, and he's like, "Oh, watch out! There's going to be black vans. They're gonna mic your cat and dog. They're gonna put chips in them, because they got this technology. They do, but like."
No, that's what he was doing. I actually witnessed it. He would play David so bad, a blue car would go by David's house, and Corey would say, "Oh, that's definitely they're watching you," and you make this.
How would he know that? It's a blue car.
Yeah, exactly. He created this aura of great paranoia everywhere he went. It was because that's the only way he could keep the story going, right? The only way that he can convince you that this was all true, that he was in the secret space program, was there had to be somebody trying to stop him, right? Trying to kill him, trying to get rid of him for talking too much. But nobody ever did, except for these fake fantasy things. Corey gets a heartburn, he goes to the hospital, and then tells everybody that, he was poisoned by the agencies or something. And, then you call the hospital up and you ask, what happened? Oh, no, he had heartburn. We gave him some antacids and he went home. So, over and over this was going on. One of David's friends' dog died. And Corey turned it into, this big hullabaloo about how they're trying to get David, but they got the dog. And then I'm eating lunch with them and I'm going, well, wait a minute. Why don't they just get the guy? Why don't they why kill the dog? I mean,
yeah, right. It's at the end of the day, why do that? And what's weird is Corey Goode. Have you seen this video? It looks like he has the same type of sores of a meth addict. Here, I'm going to play this video by Corey Goode. And this is Corey Goode's message to David Wilcock. But he's lost a lot of weight. He might have bumped his face, but like from somebody that dated somebody that knows a lot about this, they would probably agree with me that these guys, both of them look like they're not mentally healthy. Here's Corey Goode.
This is probably the hardest video I've ever had to do. As many of you know, or have learned, yesterday on 4/20, David Wilcock took his own life. We are devastated and shocked. I really love David. He was a good friend. He was there with me through a lot of horrible things. We were there for each other. We were there with each other through a lot of awesome things. We had many, many laughs, many extremely deep conversations. And I'll always remember how kind he was. He never hurt anyone. He never denigrated, talked down to anyone. He treated everyone well. And he brought such a huge body of knowledge and information to this world. I hope people remember him and respect him for that. Everyone knows since 2018, things have just really been crazy for both David and I. We have gone through an incredible amount of legal issues and cyber stalking. We've received death threats, numerous death threats on a yearly basis. There are groups of people that have gone out of their ways to completely destroy us. I think a lot of these people would have preferred to see me as the person who took their own life, but it was David. The amount of relentless cyber stalking, bullying, attacking everyone close to you until they turn on you or abandon you. This is something that was done systematically for a long time. The last time I spoke to David was just before my birthday in February. And he just went on and on about, Gaia dragging him into the lawsuits and, Stephen Cambion, Jay Weidner, and these other people that were relentlessly cyber stalking him, reporting him to the IRS, reporting him to the SEC. I'm still in shock. I'm very upset. I can't believe I'm not going to hear him laugh again. See that big smile and those sparkly eyes.
Jay, I gotta tell you, you seem like a guy that has plenty of time on your hands when you're not directing films and working on videos and everything else. You have plenty of time to report people to the IRS and everything else. Like, so this guy, like, again, paranoia, right? I'm not saying that these things didn't happen. I'm saying that he's blame shifting. He's obviously got an ego and a complex there. And I'm not a psychologist, although I did bartend for 8 years, but I would categorize him as somebody with MPD, just straight up, just somebody who, he wants sympathy from people. Oh, they wish I would have died. Why would you even say that? It's not about you. This is about David Wilcock. David Wilcock just died. And you're like, oh, everyone wishes it was me. Oh, so sorry about me. And then, it's Jay's fault and everybody else's fault, but there's no accountability. It's like dating a female in the modern day age, those young guys. Like, you can't get a girl to admit to being wrong for the life of them. That's kind of what I see with Corey Goode here. I wouldn't mind talking to Corey, but I don't believe anything this guy says, although I do believe he had good times with David Wilcock, other than the fact that they both look like they're on meth. Maybe they partied together hard, maybe they had fun together, and David had his demons. I can tell you because I saw him in conferences and I saw the things that came out of his mouth sometimes that were just not correct. And I don't mean like mean towards people, just things that we're not going to bring up here out of respect for David's life and what happened to it. And, but that is Corey Goode's viewpoint of things. Corey Goode does not look healthy, by the way. Corey Goode does not look healthy. What do you think, Jay?
Well, I think he did a lot of damage with that video. I don't think he realized how damaging that was. A number of people have written to me telling me how horrible it was. People I don't know, just strangers, telling me that they were just absolutely horrified by the way that he was talking and that he didn't show much emotion towards David. He quickly tried to move it to himself and talk about himself, which is typically Corey Goode. And you're right, he looks like hell. He looks like he got ran over by a semi-truck or something. And your theory, by the way, I went to a very popular psychic about a year ago, and I asked for her to read me what was really going on with those two guys, and she said just what you're saying.
No, I full-heartedly, like if you were to tell me that there is like a celebrity death pool and what it would be, that would be my guess, like at that point of what I see. But I'm not saying that's true because I'm not a scientist. We don't have the reports back. And that's part of journalism, is asking the questions, planting the seeds. Now, I want you guys to know that anyone can have drug problems. The doctor, like every pharmacist has a pharmacist, and there's a Harma and Big Pharma for a reason if you look at the etymology of the word. So, it's very easy. We all have loved ones that my mom was on, Vicodin for years. She got off of it. But, the medical industry has a way of just, the worst thing you can be on a lot of times are these Adderalls and these methamphetamine cloners, but then it leads to the real thing because it's better, it's cheaper, and then you party and then you go a little crazy, and then unfortunately you buy a gun because your dog dies and you think somebody killed it. Maybe Corey Goode was the one behind a lot of this. Where does Corey Goode live, by the way? Does he live in Colorado too?
Oh yeah, about 40 minutes away from David.
Oh, very interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
Yep. And you have to wonder really what's going on there. You really do. And but I think that I really do believe that once Corey admitted in court under oath that he made everything up in 2022, I think that's when it really took the nosedive. Up till that point, David still believed. But how could you still believe when he admitted under oath that he made it all up? And I think that was the beginning of the end for the whole thing. And it's certainly the end of Corey. David had a little bit of life left in him, but he was deteriorating too. And the thing is that if you're basically a good person like David was, and you realize that you just spent 4 or 5 years lying to everybody, but you believed it, that's going to cause a serious depression.
Yeah, how are people going to trust you, right? And that was my issue with David. As soon as I knew him spewing the way he religiously believed the QAnon stuff, I don't want to use the term weak-minded because the guy was highly intelligent, incredibly intelligent. But I have to question everything then. I know I make mistakes, but I correct them. I say on air, I made a mistake. I was wrong. I'm sorry. This is why you need to do your own research and listen to everybody and question everything. And I appreciate the people who hold me accountable there. But, now you're seeing the media. And I want to bring this back to the beginning because we're running out of time here, Jay. And I really appreciate you coming out and talking to me about all this because I know it's very difficult. It's very gut-wrenching. But we need to get the truth out there. Now you're seeing all these memes out there. Ancient alien scientists have all died in the last 10 years. Of course, Jordan Maxwell passed. He loved a fucking burger. Like he couldn't keep a burger and wings out of his mouth, and he didn't care at the end of the day. He lived his life, and some of these guys are just old. Nick Pope, who I've met, I got to ask Nick Pope about transhumanism. He's drinking wine. I was like, Andrew Collins, go talk to Nick Pope. He's sitting by himself, essentially. That's kind of what I said to him. I don't know exactly. But at the end of the day, now we're seeing it. They're trying to say that he's one of the dead scientists. Like he's linked to these 11 other scientists like McCaslin. And that's the new spin that the alt media, the fake before it's news, alt media style individuals. And now I'm not saying before it's news doesn't have valuable news. I'm just saying there's a lot of BS. It's like a forum. It's a wild, wild west. Don't believe it unless you can see the evidence, right? They're trying to link him to these other scientists and that he was involved in some kind of secret propulsion, type deal with this company that took him for money or whatever, this aerospace company. So can you speak on this? Was David Wilcock a scientist at all? What was his involvement?
No, I worked with him for 4 years. He was highly intelligent and knew his science, but he was not a scientist. And, I've had to, when he would do wisdom teaching, I would have to check his science on the computer to make sure that we weren't putting out BS, right? And frequently I'd say, David, you got that wrong. That wasn't quite right. Let's change this. And he worked at the aerospace company in a role. The company had nothing, had no money, had no models, had no plans, had no airplanes, had nothing.
It's a shell company. There was nothing there.
There was nothing there. Had a warehouse full of garbage trucks that rented the warehouse. And so that's just, people saying stuff. And what's really weird is that Carrie Cassidy knew David. So she knows he's not a scientist. He's got a degree of psychology at SUNY. I don't know.
Well, you look at it. So I'm a person that has, at some point in my life, been on the front page of every newspaper, and I understand the adrenaline that comes with that. I'm just telling you, I was a key reporter in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. My video was used to exonerate Kyle Rittenhouse. I saw people in front of me shot, those kind of things. And my video was on the front page of every newspaper across America. The idea is the adrenaline was there.
I broke the Joan Benet Ramsey story. I'm the guy that broke that
there we go.
Yep.
And not only that, you work with Ryder Lee.
You can't let it go to your head, I've been on History Channel, Discovery, everything, but you gotta make sure you don't lose your ego and all that. And David did lose his ego, or gained his ego, with Ancient Aliens and all of it. And he really, at the end, thought that he was almost like an avatar or something.
Well, I think that we all want to be legends and leave our imprint on history, because once we're gone, what's left is the digital and virtual world, or the books that we write. The ancients carved it on stone. I love ancient history. I really do, Jay. And you do such amazing work. I would love to talk to you. Do you know Jim Mars? Did you know Jim Mars?
Oh, yeah, we were good friends.
Jim Mars and I was lucky once. Another person that's kind of kind of woo-woo as Sean Stone. And I bumped into Sean Stone at a bar, and it just so happened that Jim Mars was in the bar, and I guess he liked whiskey, and we had some shots of whiskey, and I talked to him about his books, Rule by Secrecy, and his Illuminati book, because I'm an expert in esotericism and secret societies, specifically, the history of the Illuminati and Freemasonry and stuff like that. So I find it very interesting. But Jim Mars was a larger than life individual. And I want to kind of transition this to you, Jay, a little bit, because you've contributed a lot. I've looked through your research. I watched some interviews with you this morning. And you're called by Wired Magazine an authority on hermetic and alchemical traditions. Jay Weidner is a renowned filmmaker, author, and scholar, considered to be the modern day Indiana Jones for his ongoing worldwide quest to find clues to mankind's spiritual destiny via ancient societies, artifacts, and his body of work offers great insight into the circumstances that have led to the current global crisis. He's a writer and director of the feature film The Last Avatar, director and critical acclaimed documentary Infinity, The Ultimate Trip, Journey Beyond Death, and writer and director of the documentary series on the work of Stanley Kubrick, Odyssey and Beyond the Infinite. Because my buddy Ryder Lee really brought me into that subject of Stanley Kubrick. I heard Alex Jones talk about it. He's like, yeah, I talked about it. And, he yells so much. Sometimes it's really hard to like digest everything because he's always got so much to say. But how did you, I want to finish this up. I want to talk about your work in Stanley Kubrick. How did you get involved in it, and what made you go down that path?
It was actually... I'd been working with Richard Hoagland for years. We've been going to all the NASA places, looking at photographs, and under the guise that he thought there were alien ruins on the moon. I had an open mind about everything, but I was just interested in the whole thing. And then one night I got my Blu-ray DVD of The Shining by Stanley Kubrick, and I sat down to watch it, got my popcorn out, and I started watching it, and I saw things in The Shining, and I was like, what's this? The little kid playing with his trucks on the carpet, and the carpet looked just like the launch pad of 39A that Apollo went. I thought, well, that's weird. Then the kid stands up, he's got Apollo 11 sweater on, right? Then he walks to room 237. And then, little known, but when the making of up until about 20 years ago, the mean length distance between the moon and the Earth was 237,000 miles. So I'm watching this, and I'm getting on my computer. I'm stopping watching the movie and getting on my computer. I'm looking at all this stuff, and then I realize, then I realized that he's telling the story of Apollo inside the movie The Shining. I'm going, this is too wild. So then I got out the movie 2001: Space Odyssey and started watching it, and I noticed that the little-known cinematic effect called front screen projection was being used in the making of 2001. And that is the actor standing I'm not going to explain it, but it was a rudimentary form of blue screen or green screen back in the day before green screen got invented. In other words, the actors were standing in front of a contrived environment, but it looked real. And I saw that he was doing that. But then I went to the Apollo pictures that I've been looking at for years, and I saw that all of the Apollo photographs were front screen projection. And I proved it in my first Kubrick's Odyssey film. You can see a horizontal line behind every picture of the astronauts on the moon. That's the line between the front screen projection and the set that the astronauts are standing on. And so on the 40th anniversary of Apollo, I put out an article called How Stanley Kubrick Faked the Apollo Moon Landings, and then I used that to make my first documentary on Stanley Kubrick. And it's been downhill for the moon people ever since.
Well, it's also interesting that when you look at the object of twins is the number 11. So you start looking into all this esotericism and everything he put in there. It's very interesting. So what were your thoughts on Bart Sibrel? I interviewed him a while ago.
I like Bart. He's a great guy. But go back to 11, though, because The Shining was Kubrick's 11th film. All right? He had Apollo 11 in the film. And if you look on the set, there's all these like light fixtures. They're all in 11s. everywhere throughout the whole film. There's just 11s everywhere. And Gemini, the previous mission to Apollo, was the twins, and Kubrick changed the two girls that get killed in The Shining from two sisters that are 2 years apart to twins, right? So he's telling you that the previous program, the previous caretaker, the previous program was Gemini, and now this is the Apollo program, right? And Danny is the unwilling victim of the whole thing. And Ryder Lee and I, we made a Clockwork Shining about how The Shining is also an MK Ultra, about MK Ultra, and that they're trying to control Jack Nicholson to get him to kill his family, which is exactly why I wonder sometimes about David and what happened to him, because was he... What kind of exotic technology is out there, right?
I think time will tell, and there are a lot of technologies, but I don't see David Wilcock as being a person that's going to be targeted. I've always believed that when you start seeing the Julian Assanges and the Alex Joneses of the world start to disappear, then it's like, okay, I'm in line, right at the end of the day. And David's a very interesting individual. I'm not saying that somebody wouldn't target him or it's not possible, but I start to think more on the aspect of MK Ultra, mind control. You have a Fed that potentially infiltrated and got him hooked on some things, and then maybe he's getting paid for doing this on top of it. I wonder where Corey Goode's money comes from sometimes.
Wonder about that a lot, actually.
So, at the end of the day, David Wilcock, God bless his soul, he did a lot to talk about and bring awareness to the books, the Enoch, the Nephilim, and I'm a big researcher on the giant human skeleton phenomenon. I've released over 1,000 newspaper documents from the Library of Congress. That's a collaboration of my work and Hugh Newman and Jim Vieira, who we all know each other, and we've worked together. So, he talks about a lot of this stuff, and it's valuable, but then there's QAnon. So, it's what do we do? So, at the end of the day, Jay, we're going to find out. I thank you for joining me today. Let our listeners know, where can they find out more about you, and what is it that you're working on? And if they want to contact you, how can they get a hold of you here?
All right. So, you can find, I have a show on YouTube called Reality Check. I am going to be addressing this issue on that show. You can get most of my work at jayweidner.com. My 25 plus films are on Amazon and Gaia.com. And right now I'm working on a 2-hour documentary called The Invisible Universe, Orbs, Plasma, and the Supernatural World. It's going to have Andrew Collins in it, Robert Temple, a whole bunch of other people.
That being said, Jay, thanks for joining me today. I can't wait to meet you in real life sometime. Do you do any speaking engagements? Do you go around talking at all?
I used to, but the conference thing's kind of drying up now, and so.
Well, I think that
YouTube dominates the world right now.
Well, right, and I think the issue with conferences, they're irrelevant because the content is regurgitated. I want to do a conference on MK Ultra victims. I think that would be interesting. That would bring people out. I want to hear their stories and find. But the thing is, you got to interview family members and everything else. Figure out who's real and who's not real, and what evidence do they have? Because anyone can tell a Corey Goode story. I've learned that the hard way. I had a guy that Jimmy Payne. He was trying to talk to me about alien underbase, we got to go bomb them and say they're animal human hybrids. My children are alien hybrids. And I'm like, okay, brother, you just said that we're going to go bomb something. I'm out. That's government. You're fed. So at the end of the day, that's where we go with all this. Again, Jay Weidner, thank you for joining us. He's former director, content of Gaia.com, and he's doing amazing things. He has his new show, Reality Check. It's available on podcast apps, right? You're on good old Spotify and iHeartRadio. Thank you guys for tuning in. Follow the Rundown Live. Smash the like button. And if you'd like to support me and my guests, follow the links below. I'm Kristan T. Harris and Jay Weidner. We're checking out today.
You're listening to the Rundown Live.